I'm getting ready to quilt area 11 of the BERNINA Rulerwork sampler, and it looks like this. So at the bottom of the row, I have a bunch of scallops, which are very similar to the clamshells we did earlier. And then at the top of the row, I have some waves, and we're going to create both of these designs with the same ruler. The difference is in the scallops, I'm going a full half circle around the ruler. So I'm going all the way around like this. But in the waves, I'm just going to be using a portion of the ruler, not even the half circle. So let's start with the scallops. Again, in your PDF, you'll find all the instructions for marking your block. I've already marked mine here. So I'm quilting a semicircle that measures 4 inches across. So this ruler, of course, measures 3.5 inches across, which will give me a 4-inch circle. And I'm going to be quilting the scallops from mark to mark. So you'll see I quilt here, and then I quilt over here. So there's a little partial quilting that has to go on when I'm coming into the block. So if I lined up my ruler to quilt from mark to mark like this, if I just slide it over there, I will be able to quilt that little portion. And so I don't want to bring down my presser foot on top of the ruler, so I'm going to move the ruler foot out of the way, but I know I'm going to start at around this area, and then I'm going to do a few stitches very close together. I want you to get in the habit, it's okay to bring up the ruler, but only once the presser foot is down. So get in the habit of making sure to stitch just a few stitches and get your presser foot down and your needle down before you bring over the ruler, because you don't want to crash down on the ruler and possibly throw off the timing of your machine. So now I'm going to quilt a few stitches very close together, and then I'm going to begin the scallops. Okay, so when I move my ruler over, I'm using the lines on the ruler, there and there, the halfway point on that circle, to make sure I'm getting a full semicircle. I don't want those lines to be even a little down there, because then I won't be getting that full height of the semicircle. So I'm going to quilt from one mark all the way to the other on the other side. Now I'm quilting on the long arm, but it's very similar on the domestic. Okay, I'm going to stop, reposition my ruler. I do have tape on the back, just to make it a little easier. If your marks are a little off, no one will ever know, because those marks are going to go away later. Okay, so then I'm doing a little partial one on this side too. Now, the difference in this design, and let me bring it over so you can see it, is I have a second set of half circles going over the first. And the second step is what makes the design a little more interesting. So I have to go ahead and do the markings for that next. And they're going to be spaced exactly between the first markings. So here's my ruler. So if that's 4 inches between that point and that point, I need a mark at the 2-inch mark right here. And then I need another mark. It's not going to let me move over because I'm a long arm and the needle's down right here. Okay, so now I'm going to create a second set of scallops going across this area. And I'm going to have to do another partial set, because if the ruler gets positioned like this when I'm stitching from that mark to that mark, I need to kind of slide it over and do a partial semicircle right here. And I might not be at the right point to start that partial semicircle. Like you can see right here, if I was lined up with this mark, I can't quite get the ruler up enough. So I need to do a few stitches up to get in the position I need to be in to start this next scallop. So that works pretty well. I can get the ruler where I need it now. So just travel up the side of your block if you need to get to your next starting point. This creates such a pretty design. And now I'm going over the half again. Drifted a little bit. This is a great border, and it works up really quickly. It looks good with or without free motion. You could do a little free motion fill in there, or you can skip it. Now, I'm only going to be able to do a little partial motif over here. Okay, so that's part one of our sampler block. The next part is this wavy line, and I actually do a series of wavy lines here that eventually kind of create a network. Okay, and that's what we're working on. So the first pass, I'm just creating an S-curve. And what I'm doing is I'm connecting these marks. And these marks are 3 inches apart. The difference here is I'm not using a 3-inch ruler. I'm using a 4-inch circle ruler. So I'm only going to be using just a portion of that curve to get the wave. Okay, so it creates a different look than you would have with the orange peel when you're using the full circle. This, you're only using part of the circle. It doesn't really matter which way you quilt the S-curve first, because you're going to do both eventually. Now, I am going to quilt up the side of my block to get to my starting point. Let me find my straight arm ruler. This is what's great about rulers. You can just take them on and off as needed. So I'm going to go up the side of my block. Now, you might not be using contrasting thread. Here you can see any mistake I make, but if you use matching thread, people won't be able to see your mistakes. Or sometimes I use a thread that's just like one shade off, and you get the best of both worlds. You get to show a little more, but you also get to hide your mistakes. So we're going to quilt over the ruler to get from the side of the area to the next mark. Now, if you're a little off, don't panic, because these marks are going away at the end. I'm going to erase them with water. Now I'm going to quilt around the underside of the ruler to get to the next mark. This is actually the way I do feather spines around borders of quilts, because then I can create waves of that curve any way I want them to in any increment. Okay, so that's my first wave. Now I need to create the mirror image of that. So I'm a little, let's see if I can zoom in a little. See how I'm a little below that center line? I'm going to go that same distance above the center line. So I can use my straight line ruler to do that. Or I could just free motion a little up if I'm comfortable with that. Okay. And now I'm going to do the exact same thing coming back. So I'm going to have to kind of fake it to get to this first point, and then we'll be able to line up the ruler again. Okay, so now under the ruler and then over the ruler. Okay, so I could stop there. I have this nice little petal variation. I could stop and not do any more stitching, but since I love to over quilt things, I'm going to do a second pass. This time, my intersecting points will be in between the first set of intersecting points. So these are 3 inches apart, so I'm doing a 1.5 inch mark. Okay, and I'll do, I'm over here. See, I'm going to do another little mark right off that area just to aid me in lining up the ruler. And actually what will really help me right here, because you see I'm going to go over again on using this set of marks, would be if I had another mark out here to help me with the placement of the ruler when I'm stitching to this mark. So I'm actually going to create another little mark that's 3 inches over. I know it's in my other design area. I have no intention of going over there, but it'll just help me with alignment. Okay, so I have that mark over there. I'm going to connect this and this using the ruler, which means I need to be up here somewhere. So I'm going to stitch up. I could use my ruler. I could just free motion quilt a little bit to get up there. And I want to be at a spot where I can connect this mark with that mark. So there, and I'm going to go over. Now I'm going to go under, right? So it's this over-under pattern. And I'm using, as I said, I love to use this method to make a feathered spine. And this looks good in sashing if it's done with a pretty narrow design, or if you're using a bigger ruler, you can make a border design with it. Oh, so here, do you remember how I made that little extra mark? Here, you won't have this blossom in yet. I filmed out of order, which is why I have my blossom in. We're going to be, actually, you'll be doing that pretty soon, but not yet. So I'm going to quilt over to here, and then to create the mirror image of that design, I'm going to have to travel up the side of my border about the same distance. If I go too far, I just come back down a little. Okay, so now I'm connecting mark to mark again. Down, and then up. Listen, if your marks, I'll show you this in a minute. If you don't exactly hit your marks for these intersections, don't worry about it. The marks are going away. No one will ever be able to tell. And even if they could tell, if they told you that, they're not your friend anyway. See, I'm a little off there. No one will ever know it. Okay, so now all I need to do is do a few stitches very close together before I end my threads, and let's go ahead and do that on camera. Bring my needle up and my presser foot up, hold on to the loop of thread, do one more stitch. Now, this is a big tip for a long arm and a domestic machine. When I clip these threads, I like to actually pull the machine away a little bit and then clip through all the threads, because then it leaves my bobbin thread a little longer. I don't have to go fishing for it. And see the interlocking designs we created? It's so much fun. I hope you enjoy these designs and you enjoy applying them to your own quilt tops.